Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. Pete and I are going to break down for you exactly why the markets aren't breaking down today. They could have been because SK Hynix was down 16% overnight, but then it staged a little bit of a comeback. Does the market follow? We'll have the answers for you on today's Rebel's Edge. Yep, the heartbeat market continues, Pete.
Indeed it does. And earnings continue to be unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. And all these clowns who are against it, oh yeah, the economy sucks and blah, blah, blah. Well, if it sucks, I don't know what they're looking at.
Yeah. If it sucks, maybe it just sucks for them. If it's a 1,000-person poll, Pete, like I said to our friend Connell McShane on News Nation, if it's a 1,000-person poll, first of all, who are the 1,000 idiots that answer the phone for a pollster? You can only imagine they're the unemployed. So they're probably not happy. I guarantee you there's nobody who's getting a phone call, even if they're working remote, that's going, oh yeah, let me spend the next 10 minutes telling you what I think. Click. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But for somebody, apparently some people want to follow that. Well, I think we've got some stats that I'll use here to kick off the macro. How about that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Most stocks in the S&P 500 are trading above their 50-day moving average. Now that's most stocks, folks. Most stocks, not just the not just the data center stocks, not just the chip stocks, not just the energy stocks, most stocks. And roughly 70% of the S&Ps, that's the index that I'm citing, constituents are above their 200-day moving average. So does that really sound like the market's doing this, Pete, and rolling over? Or does it sound like, gee, we're 2% off the all-time high or 1% off the all-time high? I guess some people want to panic you out of the market, folks. We are not those guys.
No, we're not. And it is absolutely amazing. Those are the haters. And they're hating on a lot of different things. There's one specific. We don't need to even say what it is because everybody already knows it. But that all being said, John, I'm looking today, and the first thing I looked at, I go, okay, let's see how Boeing did. Well, Boeing crushes it. How did Coca-Cola do? Well, they're only up 6%, 7%, whatever it might be right now. But, they crushed it. Sherwin-Williams. I mean, these are, I'm not just cherry picking like, oh, this big, huge name XYZ or whatever. I mean, Boeing, yeah, I did that. But Coke, really? Does Coke usually do that? Probably not. I would say not. But it is amazing, John. And it's, it's something. And although everybody's focus, especially certain TV areas, will say something about, oh, yeah, these damn chips. Well, as I was just talking with you, John, it looks like we're almost going right back into the green on the NASDAQ after being down a couple hundred points or whatever the heck. So people, it might start off a little bit crazy, but people start to get their minds back into themselves and start thinking a little bit more clearly, and they can see what's going on. So the rotation, sure, there's a great rotation out there. Earnings, absolutely crushing it. And I think that people still don't fully understand and recognize that, John, because as they crush it, it just shows us that one more time that this market is not as bad as, as a matter of fact, it's very good, but not as bad as all these clowns are trying to say. I mean, let's be honest. We're right there pushing up against the 52-week highs again. So, are we really in that bad of a situation? I don't think so.
Yep. And that ain't just 52-week high, folks. That means all-time high. All right. Well, as we do that, Pete, as the Dow is up 600 points, as the NASDAQ breaks back into the green, what is the VIX doing?
Well, the VIX started off the day kind of a little bit on the higher end and then started getting hit a little bit and getting hit a little bit. And, are we up there towards 20? We were getting closer. We were around 1950, something like that. Then we started to pull back. And now here we are down 3% on the day. And we're back down very close to 18. It's I know this is sort of a wider look back, but if you look at it right now, we've been in this sort of very tight 15 to 19 sort of a range, John, and I'm talking about for quite some time. So, are we getting up to the upper levels? Yeah, we've gotten up there. Have we hit 20 in the last couple of months? Yeah, we have. Oh, how long did we last? Not very long. So it shows us that the volatility index has been pretty daggone accurate. And the interesting thing is, as we're sitting here today, John, at 16, it should be about a 1% move for the S&P. It hasn't been lined up for that for a while. So there's just a bit of cushion in there right now. And that's why I say oftentimes, hey, look, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing actually could push itself back down into the 17s. Probably not really ready to get into the 16s, but certainly into the 17s, I think, based upon what we're seeing right now in front of us. Although we do have some interesting catalysts out there coming at our way.
Yep. And one of those catalysts, Pete, happens today and tomorrow. And it's a 2-day Fed meeting. We've known this. It's on the calendar. There's no surprise. Could the Fed make a surprise move? Of course they could anytime they want. Is there a reason for them to do that? No, not right now. But I thought what we do, Pete, is compare the Kalshi numbers to the CME numbers because they are different. Now, they're not like, oh, one says this and the other says this. They're not like that. But here's the CME. Now, these are real dollars being pushed across the table in big numbers because we're talking about things like the U.S. Treasuries, which are a multi-trillion-dollar market. Things like the bonds, the U.S. bonds and so forth. So they look at that, the CME does, and they publish this every day throughout the day, 365 days a year this is there. And it is 68.5% chance that they're unchanged, Pete, that we do not see a move. But if you look over at Kalshi, Kalshi will tell you it's a 76% chance. So I'm not saying you can middle it and you can buy the one and sell the other. Somebody might want to do that. That ain't my game. No. But I'll point out to you that Kalshi is probably where, I don't know, I'd be surprised if it was $1 million in total bet on this, Pete.
Right.
But the $1 trillion markets, they say 68% chance. I still understand that that's a very significant likelihood that we're going to see flat, no change. But it's different than 76% or 3 out of 4, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And it is interesting to see those numbers as you're talking about, John. But I would always go in the direction of where is the real money going? and the CME is very, very large. And when they've got it up there like that, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world either way. 68, 76, like you said, maybe you'd want to trade somewhere and make some sort of a deal there. I think you just stare right at what's going on at the CME. And if that's your game and that's something that you're interested in, I think that is a much better tell, I would say, from a percentage basis than what we're looking at there with Kalshi. And it's not trying to be a rip on Kalshi. I'm just saying they don't have the same kind of numbers.
No. Again, I do like where people are putting their money where their mouth is. Whether it's sports betting or whether it's on various political or other things. But you've always got to understand, folks, that the really big money that Pete and John like to follow tends to be right a lot more than retail. Now, that's just like Pete said. I'm not doing it to denigrate you or me because I trade like retail now too, Pete.
Sure.
Pete and I point and click and we trade on Rebel Trade and so forth, folks. But I'd say you want to be more cognizant of where those big dollars are being bet rather than where the little dollars are being bet. All right. Whether it moves the stock today or tomorrow, I can't say. But the CME is enabling investors to trade SpaceX as well as Micron and other stocks 23 hours a day. That's right. They are making the first move. These guys, Pete, are making the first move. The CME group is. And I thought that was pretty darn cool because the fact that they're launching this where they're going to basically have 55 different equities that are going to trade 23 hours a day. And these are both regular single stock futures as well as miniatures, where you don't have to trade the same number of shares. It doesn't have to be based on 100 shares at a time, like when you go through Charles Schwab or Rebel Trade, and you happen to be trading, 100 shares, 500 shares, 5,000 shares. You can trade the minis as well, Pete. So I thought this was pretty interesting news from the CME.
Yeah, I think so, John. I mean, it gives people, it's another form of giving people an opportunity, right? I mean, because when you look at this, first of all, the hours, 23 hours a day, man, I don't know on that. But you do look at that, and you also look at, what it represents or whatever when you look at the standard contracts of 100 shares, but these, you can get it down as much as 10 shares. So it is a way to have the opportunity to do things that you probably haven't seen ever before. So I think from that perspective, it makes it pretty daggone interesting. I just, I'm an old relic, man. I'm a guy, I'm not sure. I might be running back and forth in my house here, John, to try to, get back into some of these trades or whatever. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a pretty cool thing, I think, to watch as it plays out or whatever. But man, I need to have a little bit of a break sometimes from the market. I love the markets, but I think sometimes I want to have a little bit longer break.
I get it. It's going to change a lot of things. And it's also, folks, going to be that a lot of us will end up using an AI engine of some sort. And it's why we built it into Rebel Trade, our brokerage that you'll be seeing soon. Because do you really want to stay up 23 hours? Or would you like, when you go to sleep, have some levels and have the AI trade it for you if we get above or below certain levels and all that kind of stuff? Anyway, all right. Royal Caribbean, Pete, RCL. This one was really interesting because in the pre-market, it was down, and it was down pretty hard. It's, of course, a cruise operator. It was the biggest percentage loser among the S&P in the pre-market. And then, instead of tragedy, it was victory for them because they turned it around pretty good. RCL, like I say, was biggest percentage loser. All of a sudden, it turns it around, Pete. And now instead of down 6% or about $15, it's up by that same amount. So that's a $33 turnaround from the low to the high. Pretty awesome for RCL.
Yeah, unbelievable. They raised the full year, John, which is something we're always looking for. Hey, what does it look like going forward? What did it look like for the quarter? Sure, but what does it look like going forward? Well, the other thing is that, they addressed the whole fuel cost thing. The fact that it's up like 27% or something like that for them, and that being an issue, sort of. But I say sort of because people are still going. And matter of fact, they put out there the booking trends for 2027 are extremely strong historically, right there with the normal. And so I look at this one, and it is amazing to see a stock that makes that kind of a turnaround. It's a little bit closer now to the highs than the lows. It's still got a ways to go to catch up to where it was from a 52-week high of 366. But nonetheless, the revenue growth was also 8%. So strong over just about everything, John. You look at, you say, well, you know what? They actually didn't do too bad. Yeah, they missed on revenue, but outside of that, it still went up. So very interesting to see how this is trading today.
Yeah, it was just a dramatic spin when it happened, Pete. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee there are some folks who are licking their wounds today. All right. How about IQV? This one moving higher. They reported strong Q2 results, and they raised full year guidance. So if you do that, if you beat on the looking backwards part of your performance, and then you say, and looking forwards, we're looking very strong, that's pretty hard for you not to have a good day when you do both those two things. And these guys did both of those two things.
They had a really strong Q2, just like we've been talking about. I mean, the beats are just absolutely adding up and adding up. Their revenue was very strong as well, John, at 437 billion or whatever. So they raised the full year outlook. That's always a good thing. They hit 52-week highs today. I'm sure for them, that's a really good thing. Plus 12% or something like that right now. Strong demand continues for all of what they're doing. So, you know, it's one of these where I'm looking around going, well, I can't punch any holes in anything going on here. The earnings were up 12%. The revenue is up a little over 8.5%, you know, year over year. Just a really, really good delivery. And you know what? This thing deserves to be where it is right now. And I'll tell you what, with the new 52-week highs that it hit in healthcare, and again, this isn't, you know, all these other things that we talk about. This is part of this rotation we talk about, which is, okay, sometimes it ends up being healthcare. Sometimes it's energy. Sometimes it's a financial. Sometimes it's, you know, this, it just continues to bounce around. Yes, I understand that the semis are getting hit a little bit. The semis went up pretty freaking far before they started getting hit. So let's kind of remember that too.
Yeah, always good to remember that you had Micron going from a $300 stock in April to over 1,000, over 1,100, Pete. So were many of them due for a pullback because of the extreme move they had made? Most of us would say, yeah, and pretty well deserved. Does it mean that memory is like dead and nobody's ever going to want another GPU from NVIDIA or a DRAM chips from Micron? No, no. All right, let's talk about GLW because Corning is down hard. They were down almost 20%, Pete. They are still down hard, despite the fact that a solid second quarter earnings beat. But everybody, like I said, you've got backwards looking and forwards looking. And the backwards looking, in other words, the earnings for this quarter, great. Forward looking, not so much. As Larry David would say,
well, yeah, the stock's getting hit for, I think, all the right reasons, John. I mean, did they deliver? Yeah, their core sales were great. They're up 17%. That's fantastic. Their optical side of things was growth of 32%. Yeah, that's great. Those are all great. But the problem is when you're a stock that's gone up for a variety of very good reasons, and then all of a sudden you put that out there, the problem is, okay, well, what does the guidance look like from here? And of course, as we always say, the guidance, not so great. So that's the problem. It's not that it was a terrible guide. It was just that it did not meet the expectations that people had for it. So because of that reason, the stock basically people just turned and burned and started selling it. So I don't know. This is one of those names too, John, where like the name, like what they do. I like what they did this past quarter. They did a phenomenal job. And do I think in the future it's going to be a little bit lighter? Yeah, probably so. But now that we know that, down, what, 18% or something like that? This might be one of those where you're kind of hovering around for a little while, maybe considering it. And if we see UOA go in there, John, unusual option activity, there's a good reason to say, you know what, now's the time to maybe jump in there. Could be interesting.
You know, Pete, I was looking at the chart, and back in March, we were right here at this same level. So in March, we were $122 a share. When you look at where we got to on some peak frenzied buying activity, it traded all the way up over 255.
Okay.
So is that a lot in a very short period of time? Most of us would say yes. Most of us would say, wow, it's got to have a little bit of a comeback. Now, did I think it would come all the way back and give back everything that it made? No, I think just like you said, that's probably too much. I think in all likelihood, this is a stock that we should be putting on our buy list, Pete, not putting on the sell list. Because like you said, were the forward looks terrible? No, they weren't terrible, but they missed. And people, you know, once somebody starts selling, folks, and you've got all these algorithms that kick in, the selling just begets more selling. It just starts tumbling, just like it does to the upside. We've seen it happen both directions. We've given you a couple of both directions today. So, all right. Well, Pete, let's take a look at a little video here because, well, there are some beasts, and Pete and I were out with some beasts in pro football that are on the other side of the ball. The beasts that we were out with were Lawrence Taylor and Vaughn Miller, Max Crosby, Cam Jordan, and a bunch of other studs, guys that are, all candidates if they're not already. And obviously LT is in the Hall of Fame already, but all the others, Pete, are potential Hall of Famers. I'd say all of those guys, but they're on the rush side of the ball. So they have to be really fast, use their big leverage, because all of them are 6'4" to 6'8".
Yep, at least.
They've got massive leverage. I mean, scariest humans. You think it's scary when you see NBA humans walking around. They're tall, but they're tall and skinny. Even like Pete's friends, the guy Peterson or whatever, Pete.
Holmgren.
Tall and skinny, intimidating, yes, but they're not 6'8" and 280 pounds like the edge rushers, some of them are. But these are the guys that have to defend that, Pete. These are the guys, and this is the guy that took over for Kelsey, not Travis, but Jason over on the Philadelphia Eagles. So get a load of this guy.
I love this guy.
Is built different. While most NFL linemen train with blocking sleds, the Eagles' Pro Bowl center practices against actual bulls on his Nebraska farm. Yes, real bulls. Jurgens gets into his stance.
That's the craziest thing I've ever
seen. Their power without losing his balance. It might be the wildest offseason blocking drill in football, but growing up around farm work helped build the strength and toughness Philadelphia sees every Sunday. Eagles fans, does any offensive lineman have a crazier training routine than Cam Jurgens? This is why
nobody has a crazier routine than that.
That is an amazingly big kid too, and big Nebraska corn-fed dude. I'll tell you what, the offensive line and the defensive line of Philadelphia, they've got to be top 5 on both sides. I mean, they've got some monsters that are good. You can have a big guy, but you need big guys that are good. They can move and they can do all that stuff. And even as big as they are, they don't have a whole lot in front of them hanging over, right? I mean, which gives them the opportunity to be a little bit quicker probably out there, even though they weigh 320, 340 pounds, whatever some of these guys weigh. Unbelievable. All right, John, I got a couple of fun stuff, real quick ones for us today. But the NFL, now, quarterbacks, everybody's in camp now. Everybody's in camp. Everybody's excited. I mean, it's getting talked about, left and right. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. But what is the most important position in all of football? And everybody will always say quarterback. Now, I think that's mostly true, so I'm going to say quarterback for now. But here's the thing. Look at all these different teams, and some of them playoff-looking type teams, or at least they think they are, that don't have their number one quarterback figured out yet. So let's start with the Minnesota Vikings. Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy, John. There's only 5 of these, but there's 5 of these teams that have not really locked in anybody yet. I mean, maybe they're close, but they haven't locked them yet. So who do you think, J.J. McCarthy or Kyler Murray?
I think it's going to be Kyler Murray, Pete. And if they've indeed got the line that I think they've tried to put together, even though, like you're going to tell me, they didn't draft a lineman except in the 5th round. And they should have got somebody earlier, but I think the line is better than it was, and hopefully not as injured as it was in the past 2 years, Pete, because the Vikings line has suffered in the past 2 years. If they've got a healthy line, Kyler Murray could put up some surprising numbers.
Yep, little guy who can scoot around back there too. So he adds a little extra something there. He's not just some stiff who drops back and gets clobbered or whatever. He has a shot. Cleveland Browns, you got Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders. So there's your Shedeur from Colorado, John. Do you think it's Shedeur, or do you think Watson finally? Has the guy been on the field?
Yeah, and that injury has cost the Browns dearly. They had some stupidity signing this guy for what they signed him for, Pete, even though they were able to put some clauses in there that caused some of it to be clawed back, even though the bulk of it was guaranteed. I think Shedeur hasn't shown me anything, Pete, in the pros, nothing at all. So I got to still go with a guy that at one time was one of the greats, but then kind of fell apart with all the accusations with the massage therapists and so forth. So I'd still give that guy the edge over Shedeur until Shedeur proves me wrong.
Yep, I agree. Tua or Penix down there in Atlanta? What do you think? Who stands?
Penix.
Yeah, I think so too. People are all talking about Tua, and I'm like, you know what? The guy's had a lot of different issues. He's a decent quarterback or whatever, but I think Penix has already kind of shown us a little bit as a young guy still, not young NFL guy, but in terms of years in the NFL. How about the Arizona Cardinals, John? You got Minshew, you got Brissett, you got Carson Beck, which they took in as a little bit of a surprise to a lot of people. Not me. I like that kid a lot. I don't know where I put him on that group or whatever, and they probably aren't going to start a rookie. But I'll tell you what, I think that guy's ready to go. And he is, age-wise, he should be ready to go, and I think he is. But who do you think on that one?
I'm right there with you. Beck. Carson Beck. Saw him play, gave Indiana all that they could take. They barely held on, and that's with one of the great college quarterbacks in the last several years, Mendoza, doing the magic that only Mendoza could do.
Yeah.
So Carson Beck, and did he throw an interception at the very end? Yeah, but they were desperate.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, it was a wide open deal and he didn't read it right and he threw the bad pass or something like that. They were running out of time to get something done, Pete.
Yeah.
So I think he brought them all the way to the verge of a national championship. And had they beat Mendoza and Indiana, that would have been, headline news right till today.
Yeah.
So I'd say that guy's ready to make some noise in the NFL. I think that guy starts.
Yep, I like him, and hopefully they are smart enough to figure out that he could probably be a pretty damn good quarterback at the NFL level too. Well, you mentioned Mendoza. How about this, Mendoza or Cousins? I'm not even sure. I think that in a lot of the cases here, I think they're going to start with the veteran, and then if there's an issue, then you bring in the next guy maybe. But I'm not sure on this one, John. What do you think? Is Mendoza? He feels like he's ready to step in there. The guy's really mature. The guy's a heck of a football player, and we saw the grit that he's got in the national championship game. But then there's Kirk Cousins, who's been around forever and probably one of the highest paid players and quarterbacks ever in the NFL because he gets a new contract every couple of years.
Yeah, he is. He should be the starter, Pete. I think he will be the starter. Will the crowd understand, or will they boo it? I guess it depends on the winning. If he's able to win there, obviously he'll be there for a while, and Mendoza will be learning the pro game. He's at that level where he could start if they didn't have a great guy like they have to step in there like Cousins can. But if Cousins has a few oopsies, because, again, his career has gone like the stock market, up and down, Pete, up and down, even though he's continued to go up in salary, just like Sam Darnold. Everybody thought he was, should be taken out with the trash. And then the Vikings get him, and all of a sudden they see something and they go, maybe if he has a line and some receivers, he's not as bad as we thought when he was with the Jets, for instance. Same thing could be true here with Cousins, Pete.
Yeah.
So, but he, on the other hand, could have some oopsies. And if he starts throwing some interceptions and they're losing, I don't think Mendoza will be long on the bench. I think he'll be right there if that happens.
I totally agree. All right, so the Big Ten had their media day. We're going to college football now. And Kyle Willingham, the new coach, the coach of the Michigan Wolverines, is there. We've already had a lot of stuff going on with Michigan this week and other weeks and so forth. North Carolina's got their own issues with their GM and issues of some sort. they really haven't released a whole lot on that. But one of the things I was listening to Kyle in what he was getting interviewed, John, and one of the things he said was, he goes, hey, look, one thing we've got to do, we have to do it, and he's a huge advocate. College has to have a salary cap. They've got to look at the NFL and figure out what they're going to do. But he said, he's expecting next year that there's at least 12 schools that'll be at least $50 million in rosters. So that's a real money. And he likened it to being you've got the NFL. Why not have this minor league model at least? It's not the minor leagues, but a minor league model of pay at least for these players. And it's pretty interesting. I totally agree. Matter of fact, I'd even go a step further, John. I'm not sure that all these players should be getting different amounts of money, but that's just a different way of looking at it, I guess. I mean, if you're on the roster and you're one of the starters or you're one of the top 50 guys or whatever, maybe you all split that 50 million up. I don't know. but there's a lot of different ways you could look at it. But in any case, what do you think about the idea of a salary cap for the colleges?
I don't know. I guess I could understand it, Pete. But I think you bring up the bigger point, which is, how do you more fairly allocate to these teams? Because obviously the quarterback is great, spectacular. Some of them make $5 and $6 million, like I believe Shadur did. And like I think probably Manning is getting somewhere in that neighborhood. And, the guy that ain't playing this year that tried to transfer from Cincinnati to Texas Tech, he's probably one of those guys that was going to make that kind of money. But, you've got to have a guard. You got to have two of them, in fact, at least. And you got to have a center, and you got to have two offensive tackles. You got to have a tight end. You got to have wide receivers, running back. And that's just the offensive side of the ball. So can you have a $50 million roster and have the quarterback make half of that? If they don't do anything about it, yeah. So I think what they really somehow need to do is almost put a salary cap on positions, Pete. So, for instance, if you said 50 is the number and we're only going to limit, the maximum any team can have is 50. Okay. So what should a quarterback be of that? 20%, $10 million max? Or should it be 15% or whatever? Because you got to allocate to some of these other guys. Otherwise, I think the whole system falls apart pretty fast.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's complicated. It's not going to be answered today for sure. But as we move along through this whole new era, it's going to be interesting to see how they do it. I mean, hell, they used to do it back in the day when nobody knew that they were doing it. Now they're in front of everybody doing it. I can tell you that. I know a little bit about some of that sort of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate all of you tuning in. We've got some new segments we're working on for the show, folks, and we appreciate all of your input. And remember, for all of you, anybody that doesn't like what you heard or saw today, we'll send you your money back. It's a money back guarantee for the Rebels Edge and the Rebel Investors Club. So we appreciate you joining us. Thanks, and have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow at 1.